Good morning.
Good morning.
You can hear sound coming out of this. Good.
Yes.
Excellent. So, my sermon this morning is titled, Know Your Why. Now, the next hurdle, I beg your pardon.
You do come up with some interesting titles.
Excellent. To start off, let's just read the scripture reading. So, this is a common verse that I've used before. So 1 Peter 3, verse 15. And it says, "But in your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect." That's from the English Standard Version. I like the New International Version. It says, "Give a reason for the hope that you have, an answer rather than a defense." When someone says, "What is the reason for the hope in your heart?" What is the reason? And it says, always be prepared to give an answer. Now, sometimes talking to someone about God who knows nothing about God is like speaking to an alien. Because everything that you have to say is completely alien to them. They don't know it, they don't understand it, there's no familiar concepts, there's no common ground. So if we think it's difficult to talk about religion to a non-believer, let's talk about something we know very, very well. So if an alien from Mars came to Earth, and we had to explain to him, what is water? Now, water is something we all know. We know water very, very well. So tell me about water.
H2O. Bonus.
H2O is the chemical components. There's no water on Mars.
It's wet.
Water is wet. Water is wet. Water is soft and wet, and it will take on the shape of the container that you put it in. Okay? Is it always wet?
It can be a vapor.
Oh, when it gets really cold, then it turns into a solid, like a brick. So water's not just soft, and water's not wet. So now water's dry and cold and hard. So when water's frozen, can it change its shape?
No, it's solid.
No.
It's a solid mass.
Okay, has anybody ever made a snowball?
Yeah.
What is snow? Frozen water, which you can mold it into different shapes. So water changes its shape, but it doesn't change its shape. And sometimes when it's cold, it's hard and it's not soft. And it doesn't change its shape, but then it does change its shape if it's snow. What else? What happens when water gets hot?
Vapor.
Yes.
It turns into vapor. Like you can see the vapor from a volcano, from hot pools. And it turns into a vapor, or then it's not liquid, it's not solid, but it's hot. And you can see it. But sometimes when steam gets very hot, you can't see it. So when you boil your kettle at home, right where the steam comes out of the spout, it's invisible, you can't see it. But it will burn you, because water vapor is hot. Okay, what are clouds made out of? Water vapor, so clouds are hot. No, clouds are cold. It doesn't seem to me like you lot know very much about water. Because everything you say is full of contradiction. And you tell me one thing and then you tell me another thing. So how well do you actually know water?
Variety of applications.
Variety. Because water is not just one thing. And water is not always the same. And we know it, and everybody knows it, but to explain it takes time. So if someone truly wants to know and they ask the question, they also have to be willing to invest the time to learn the answer. And it's not always simple and straightforward in just one thing. So the definition of why, according to the dictionary, says that why is used to determine the reason, the cause, or the purpose of something. What is your reason? What is the cause? What is the purpose? That is why. Why? What is the answer to why? The biggest why question is, what is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? That's really, it's what is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything?
42.
42. Excellent. We're on the same page. So, according to Douglas Adams in his series of books, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he says that he puts the question into a supercomputer called Deep Thought. And Deep Thought thinks about this question for thousands and thousands of years and then comes up with the answer 42. So, what does that mean?
Like 42.
And in the book, the idea is it likes to suggest that some profound truths have simple, elusive answers. But actually 42 is not completely random. I'm glad some of the teenagers stuck around, because this is the latest sort of stupidity infecting youth culture. If you multiply 6 and 7, you get 42. Now there's a whole bunch of interesting things about the number 42 if you like maths. So it's a pronic number, which means it's two consecutive integers, 6 and 7. They come one after another. It's also a practical number because if you take all the factors, all the things that can divide into 42, and you add them together, you get 42. Now, according to the Jewish Kabbalistic sort of Jewish mysticism, they believe there are 42 letters in the secret name of God. And there's lots of numerology and astrology and all kinds of other nonsense that really lose their minds around 42 because 42 is so interesting and significant. But we don't delve into the things of the devil because it will poison your mind. What about a rainbow? The angle, maximum angle on a rainbow is 42 degrees. Okay, that's interesting. Do you know that you can only store red blood cells outside? You can only store red blood cells for 42 days. So when you donate blood, when you go and you donate blood, they can store the plasma for longer, but the red blood cells they can only store for 42 days. And blood is life. The element molybdenum is number 42. It means it's got 42 protons in its nucleus. It's also the 42nd most common element in the universe. So it's two 42s. It's like an alignment of 42s. I wonder what that means. And then, of course, there are approximately 42 million protein cells in a average human cell. What about in the Bible? There's 42 generations from Abraham to Jesus in Matthew's genealogy of Christ. In Numbers chapter 33, it actually lists all the places the Israelites camped in their journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, including their wandering in the wilderness. And you know how many places they camped? 42. In Revelation 13 verse 5, we read that the beast is given authority for 42 weeks. And also in Daniel, months, sorry. And it's repeated in Daniel, so in prophecies, 42 pops up all the time. The book of Job has got 42 chapters. And in the last chapter, God restores his wealth and gives him more children. Wow, that's a lot about 42. Surely there must be a deeper meaning to 42. And the answer is, facts don't equals meaning. We can learn lots of things, and we can learn lots of facts, and we try to ascribe meaning to things which are meaningless, but are interesting. They like capture our imagination, and we say, surely there must be a secret connection here, if we could just figure it out. Can it just be coincidence that this occurs everywhere? And it's a form of futile thinking. It's a form of distraction where we can delve into it and go home and Google number 42 and see everywhere where it occurs. And it's going to give you more and more interesting things that mean nothing. Because it doesn't answer the question, why? What is the cause? What is the reason? What is the purpose? This is a picture of a nebula, and it's nebula number 42. Do you know what nebula that is? We've got a name for it. It's one of the most common constellations in our night sky, which we can see from the north and the southern hemisphere. Orion. This is the Orion Nebula. Now, what's the difference between a nebula and a supernova? Space terms. A supernova is an exploding star, and a nebula is where stars are born. So basically, that nebula is a cloud of material which coalesces and forms into stars. So it's the birthplace of stars. Now, Orion is mentioned in the Bible in 3 places. First one in Job 38, verse 31. It says, "Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion?" The Pleiades is commonly called the 7 sisters. It's a little constellation of 7 stars. This is God asking, can you do this? In Amos chapter 5 and verse 8, it says, "He who made the Pleiades and Orion, and turns deep darkness into the morning, and darkens the day into night, who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the surface of the earth, the Lord is his name." And then finally in Job chapter 9, verse 9 and 10, "Who made the bear and Orion, the Pleiades and the chambers of the south? Who does great things beyond searching out, and marvelous things beyond number?" And what it points to is the meaning and the reason, the cause and the purpose. God created. And all through creation, he's left his fingerprints, so that for someone who's wanting to find out and wants to search, certain things are observable. And even if you're coming from a place of just from the world and you don't acknowledge God, some things and the wisdom that God has built into the world is patently obvious and can be discerned because he has a structure to it. So, quick diversion. How do you build a house?
Very carefully.
Very carefully. The first step is actually not to start digging the foundation, but to choose where to build the house. It's the setting. And choosing where you build your house is important because you are going to live with this decision for as long as you live in your house. If you put your house in the wrong place, you put it in the swamp next to the mosquitoes, as long as you live in the house, you're going to live with the bugs and the mosquitoes and the irritation. So where you locate your house is actually the first important question. The setting. Then you start digging a foundation. And your foundation is the most important layer, because if you get the foundation wrong, your house will crumble. Then you've got to frame the house. What does the frame do? It holds everything together. Otherwise, you just have a pile of stuff on this wonderful foundation. So you create a frame, and the frame creates a structure and holds everything together. Once you've got a frame, you can put on a roof. What does the roof do?
Keeps the weather out.
Keeps the weather out. Keeps the rain out. So that you can weather the storms of life. And your house is not ruined because the storms come in. And then finally, you do the finishing. You finish it off. You put the tiles in. You make things look pretty. And then you see the beauty of it is finished. Then you have a house. What happens when you take shortcuts in the building of your house? It can be dangerous. I don't know how many people would like to walk on those particular stairs. But sometimes when we're building our house, we want to rush ahead. We're chasing a goal. We don't want to take it slow. We don't want to build in the layers. And we try to take a shortcut from point A to point B. Or sometimes we come across something that we don't like. And rather than changing, we try to avoid it. We take a shortcut around the problem instead of facing it and recalibrating and building slowly and solidly. We avoid a problem by building in a shortcut. And what does it do? It's danger. And we carry that danger with us. Sometimes we ask our friends for help. So, not everyone knows air conditioning and how you're supposed to install it. But is that the right way around?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
What's wrong with that picture? It's exactly backwards. Okay? Unless you want a heater, because the condenser unit is in the room and the bit that blows the cold air is on the outside. So they've got it exactly backwards, because sometimes we go and ask our friends for help and they're very helpful, but they're not coming from a position of knowledge. Sometimes they're just as ignorant as what we are. And with their enthusiastic help and guidance, we get things turned around exactly wrong. So who we ask for help and guidance when we're trying to figure things out is important. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 and 25, it says, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock." There is a very popular inspirational, motivational speaker who's made a multi-million-dollar business out of find your why. How do you find the thing that motivates you? How do you find the thing that gives you purpose? Now, what's this? It's a $50 note. Okay? So in the teens class, I offered them $50 if they would learn 4 memory verses. Actually, it's four portions of scripture, totally comprising 8 verses, or 203 words. And in exchange, I offered them $50. to learn 203 words. That works out to 25 Australian cents per word. You know how many people learned the passages? 3. 3. Because $50 is not sufficient motivation. When we're so blessed in Australia, I would have jumped off a roof for $50 when I was a teenager. You must be joking. Hey? What is the motivation? You can't motivate me with money if I have no need for money. If all my needs are taken care of and I am completely comfortable, how do you motivate me? So, finding your why in a world where people lack motivation, and they lack meaning, and they lack purpose, it resonates with people saying, I want to find my purpose. I want to find meaning in my life. So, he's built this business out of find your why. And he defines your why as the purpose, cause, or belief. It's not just what you do, it's the fundamental reason that you do what you do, which is different from the how or the what. Your why is what inspires. People follow and are loyal to those who act on their beliefs. Why acts as a filter for decisions. It helps you choose things that are right for you and say no to things that aren't. It keeps you true to your purpose. So in Peter, where it says, be prepared to give an answer. The reason for the hope that is in you, it means, do you understand your purpose? Do you understand your reason and the cause? And if it's God, it will act as a filter. If God is your purpose and the root of your why, it acts a filter for your decisions so that you choose good things and reject bad things. So Simon's got some advice on how to find your why. He says, step number 1, reflect on your past. Step number 2, share your stories. Step number 3 says, identify recurring themes and then craft a why statement. So then your why is, I contribute this so that my impact is that. Now when I read 1, 2, and 3, I thought, you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like my Bible. Because the first thing it tells me is reflect on your past. Remember your past. In Deuteronomy 6, verse 20 and 21, we read, when your son asks you in time to come, what is the meaning of the testimonies and the statutes and the rules that the Lord our God has commanded you? Then you shall say to your son, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. To reflect on your past and to see God's guidance and His providence in your life and everything that has brought you to where you are today is part of crafting the story and the answer for your why. Why do I believe? Step number 2, share your stories. In Mark chapter 5 and verse 19, Jesus had just cast demons out of a man who was demon-possessed. And Jesus was going to get in the boat and cross over the lake. And the man wanted to go with him, and Jesus said no. And he did not permit him, but he said to him, go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how He has had mercy on you. Share your stories. when it says identify recurring themes. The Bible is a book of harmony, where God's character is revealed again and again and again and again. So we have recurring themes in the Bible, and I've just listed some of them. God's sovereignty and creation, sin and redemption, obedience and covenant, God's presence, the Messiah, justice and compassion. They are recurring themes that recur over and over and over because God is trying to tell us something. And everything is in harmony because it's one revelation of God's character. What's wrong with this picture? Sometimes we can build the most beautiful houses that are castles in the sky and that have no foundation. And the stories are so important. And the stories in the Bible are so important, both in terms of reflecting on our past, telling us who we are, and telling who God is. And a lot of time people avoid or they jump into different things. So there's a reason we start by teaching our children Bible stories, because the stories reveal God's character and His love for us. And it helps to build and establish that foundation. And it's always baffled me how people can turn away from God. 1 minute they believe and they're all excited, and the next minute they're gone. And you go, how is that possible? And it can only be because the foundation was not secure. We built castles in the sky with nice ideas, but we didn't build the foundation and ask advice from the master builder who made us and made everything. It's not how we think we should build our house. It's how God says we should build our house. So what is the answer to the question? What is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? God's the answer. There is no meaning apart from God. There is only facts and mind puzzles and things to keep you amused and distracted. So how do you craft your answer when someone says to you, what is the reason that you believe? I know that God is the cause. God created. He created everything in the universe. God is the reason. He put His character on display to everyone so that they can say, yes, God is love and God is just and His laws are just and He is holy and God is the purpose. So if we want meaning in our lives, sometimes we mix up what motivates us and gives us purpose. So we have a job, and we have this, and we have that. What is the primary driver for our decisions and our actions? What do we measure our choices against? Do we measure it against Jesus in our hearts, or do we measure it against other motivators? And sometimes we can get ourselves confused and mixed up. And what do you do if you've started building on top of a foundation that doesn't hold? What's the only solution? Break it down and start again. Sometimes if we find ourselves lost and confused and adrift, it's good to just break it all down and start again. And we start like children. We start learning the stories and understanding God's character and His love for us. And as we understand those things and reflect on the past, and we see that the universe without God has no meaning, we can find meaning in Him. but it requires that we choose Jesus and make him Lord of our hearts.